Hello and welcome to the Creaky on a Monk, and today, yes, we are in Age of Mythology Retold, and we're doing a guide for the Greeks. Now, this is the last in the guide series. We have covered all the other ones, and now we're getting into the famous Greeks. We're going to be covering Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon, and just how they play and everything that I think is good about them. Don't forget, guys, we do have an active and growing Discord, and it'd be great to get more people from the community inside it that want to play a little bit of multiplayer, or maybe they just want to share tricks and tips. You can find the link for that down in the description. First of all, let's talk about Poseidon. Now, in my opinion, he's probably the weakest out of the three Greek gods. However, he does have something rather interesting, something you can take advantage of during multiplayer games, and that's that market exchange rates are improved by 15%. Now, considering how much you actually need to rely on your markets, I think that's pretty decent. Now, he does have a passive ability called Lure, in which you'll get extra food. Well, not extra food, but you'll get all the animals within the area to, group up, which does help. He does have a hippocampus as well, which does spawn as soon as you make a dock. They are immortal, and you do get militia that appear once a building has been defeated. You also get a few buffs to scouts and cavalry. Over to Zeus, and in my opinion, possibly has one of the best passive abilities where you gain an extra 20% favor. Now, favor generation is amazing, especially with this. A 20 plus boost here is really, really strong. You also start with a little small amount of favor as well. Also, myth units cost one less population, meaning you can effectively have more of them within your game. He also has access to one of the strongest early god powers in the entire game, which is Bolt. This thing is a one-hit wonder. It will kill dead almost anyone that it comes in contact with, and we've tested it on a lot of different units. Of course, it doesn't work against a Titan, but it does one-hit most things. Now, what I like about Hades is that myth units get an extra 20% health, which is fantastic. We'll talk about why that's so good a little bit later, but we also get ranged fortification plus an extra 2 there, on top of the fact that his starting power is Sentinel, which will effectively put 4 small turret towers around a town center. This can be repeated as well if you don't build too close to your town center. So essentially, you're going to get extra archer towers. It's a good early defense. Now, when it comes to end game boss powers, there are essentially 3 really good ones. Earthquake, in my opinion, is the best one out of all of them. It's so powerful. We will show you this at the end of the video, but it's just completely devastating if used correctly. However, to Zeus's downfall, he doesn't have access to Earthquake. He does instead have Lightning Storm, which is pretty good. It seems to target units first before it targets buildings. It can target buildings and it can damage them, but it is nowhere near as powerful as Earthquake. However, if you do end up going with Zeus, you do have access to Medusa units, which are very good. They're able to freeze any unit, including myths. Very, very strong, to be honest with you. However, every single god does have access to the colossus. Now, this thing can be upgraded. It is a myth unit, and if you're Hades, the colossus is an absolute tank, capable of having 3,000 hit points. The thing hits like a tank as well. Again, it's no use against a Titan, but it can be very useful if you get this thing out early. When it comes to gameplay, the Greeks play pretty well. They have to use villagers as all of their kind of gatherers. That's how you do your gathering, that's how you do your building. They only cost 50 food, and you can have 100 of them. Every single villager counts as 1 population. When it comes to your population, you do build houses. You have 16 to put down, and it does cost wood. In fact, most of your civilian buildings do cost wood, and it can all be built from your villagers. You simply press Y on console to flip to the military buildings, and they can build them as well. One thing I like about the Greeks is they have a lot of scouts. Now, we do have the Pegasus that can scout. You do have troop on horseback that can scout as well. And of course, you also have the Hippocampus in the water that can scout too. Now, when it comes to resource gathering, you are going to need buildings for this. They have to drop off those resources. They drop them off either in a town center, or you can build a special building depending on which material you're actually gathering. But having those buildings will really help and mean that you can gather the resources a lot quicker. It's also through these buildings that you can do the upgrades. Now, when you play as the Greeks, depending on whether you play Zeus, Hades, or Poseidon, they each have very unique heroes. They can each build 4 heroes, and every one of them has unique heroes, which I think is pretty cool. Now, it's going to be the heroes in which lets you pick up those artifacts, and of course, that's going to be very important. The more you get, the stronger you are. Now, personally, I think the Greeks have some of the best myth units in the entire game. Being able to have a horde of Minotaur is just pretty awesome. However, they do have some really strong units as well, some of them easier to use than others. The Hydras are very, very good. When they're first made, they have a single head, but the more units that they kill, they gain an extra head. And of course, the more heads they have, the more damage they will actually deal. They don't have a particularly massive amount of health. Keeping them alive in order to get that 5th head, I believe 5 heads is the max, is a little bit difficult, but if you manage it, they have amazing damage output. Now, we did mention the Colossus earlier in the video. It's a very good and powerful unit. I personally can't see a reason to pick it over Earthquake because that is just so powerful. But if you want to do something a little bit different, go with the Colossus. If you make a bronze Colossus, he has a lot of health and a decent amount of attack as well. You can upgrade this all the way to a gold Colossus, and of course, if you finish your wonder, then of course all myth units kind of gain that additional power, making them very formidable indeed. The Medusas are also a unit that I quite like using. If you're going to pick Zeus, if you're going to go with that Lightning Storm, grabbing the Medusas along with that are very good. They're amazing against infantry units. They're amazing against myth units because they have a superpower in which way they can turn anyone to stone. It freezes them. In some cases, it kills them instantly. In some myths that have a little bit more health, they may still be able to walk around. Also, the Medusas are ranged attackers. However, the downfall with the Greeks is the way that they generate faith. In my opinion, it absolutely sucks because you need to grab your villagers from doing all the important jobs that they're already doing, like collecting all those valuable resources, and get them to pray at the temples. Now, you do get to have 100 villagers, so it's not necessarily as bad as all that, especially if you get 1 or 2 to start praying early in the game. A side note, if you do get a villager to build a temple, instead of waiting for the next job, they will automatically pray at the temple. This is a blessing or a curse, depending on which way you're looking at it. As long as you're aware, it should be okay. However, you're going to want a lot of faith because the god powers that you have available at your fingertips as the Greeks is bloody awesome. Now, I'm using the Pegasus here to scout the enemy cities. Now, I already know what they've got. They're not necessarily built up, but I want to demonstrate 2 of the god powers. The first one is going to be Lightning Storm. Now, Lightning Storm is still very, very useful, but it's nowhere near as powerful as some of the other god powers available throughout the game. However, what it will do is target the units first. So if you're in battle, if you're trying to, attack, they have a huge army, it won't hurt your own units, and you're able to take care of that army almost instantly. As you can see, the lightning bolts are striking one at a time, targeting each individual unit. Once all the units are done, it will start targeting the buildings. Now, the next power we're going to use is Earthquake. This thing is a game ender. If you go up against someone who is built very close together and you're able to target this thing in the middle of their base, it just absolutely destroys it. As you can see, we just use it now and it just rumbles the entire earth, destroying every single building. So if they don't have a spare resources, if they don't have a spare city, the game's pretty much over. Well, there we have it, guys. That is my guide to how to play as the Greeks. If I missed anything at all, don't forget to comment it down in the comments, and it just helps the community grow and get a little bit more knowledge. But until next time, I've been a monk who's been critically clueless, and I will see you in the next video real soon. Until next time, happy gaming.